Hi everyone, my name's Nina Bual. I am actually a fellow parent at Dovercourt. So that's how I've come to be in front of you. Hopefully I can part some wisdom about cyber safety in the next half an hour. To give you an idea of my background and what we'll be doing in the next half an hour, I'll just do a quick overview. I have been working in cyber safety and in cyber risk for the last 5 years, working with children from 8 to 18 years of age. And I was going into schools, and I have been into Dovercourt before and many others. And what really resonated with me was what we're talking about in cyber safety and cyber security. It seems irrelevant sometimes to what's actually going on out there. And parents really do want to be on top of things. They do want to know what's going on. But we don't really have the resources to do that. And that's why I started with the book. The book was made so that all the characters speak to the children about what we really, really need to know about and be relevant and up to date. Now, the issues I talk to the children about and the issues I'm going to talk to you about are obviously clearly different. What we want to know as parents are, what are the major issues out there and what can we do about it? And what I found in the last year, the issues have changed with the pandemic. And so I want to really bring you straight up to date with everything. Why I believe we need to be having this conversation really is that the statistics show that on average, a parent spends 46 minutes talking to their children about cyber safety their entire lifetime. That's the average we speak to them. When we know as parents and teachers, the biggest risk we have today is actually in the cyber world with our kids, especially here in Singapore. We're not very worried about them going onto the street and getting mugged. But we do know that when they're on Fortnite and Roblox, there's things we intuitively know we need to be worried about. So I want to go into what we intuitively know and what we need to be doing about it. We start with the statistics. And I promise I won't statistic you to death, but it's always to know to start with those so we know where we need to start worrying. These statistics are leaning towards the US, but I do have Singapore statistics as well, and they really do match. If you look at the top line, that top line is for tweens. A tween is 8 to 12 years old. That bottom line is for teens, 13 to 18 years old. Something really interesting to point out is when you have a tween like I do, I sit there with my child at the age of compliance and say, well, they only have an average of 44 minutes of the internet for entertainment a day. But as soon as they hit 13, the average children stay online for is 7 hours and 22 minutes. So that consistent jump is significant and something that we need to be really aware of. So then you look at those figures and you are not surprised that 82% of kids have seen cyberbullying, 94% have seen violence, and drugs and alcohol, suicide and harm, which we will go into because that's one of the ones that worries me the most, and sexual conduct. In terms of sexual conduct, the most sexual conduct that is watched is actually on the school bus. If you have secondary school teachers, let's not blame the teachers, students, and you also have the small kids, that's where they get more exposed to it. So this is statistically talking, not talking about Dovercourt itself. And where are they seeing this content? Now, I think you'll all be surprised because I'm always surprised where children are actually viewing this content. If I was to ask you, you would probably say Instagram, TikTok, that's where this content's being viewed. It's not. The content is being viewed where I am and you are. But my AI for Pinterest is sewing patterns and craft and what I can cook at the weekend, depending on what's in flavor. But what's on a Pinterest page of a 17-year-old or a 13-year-old is completely different because it's totally driven by AI. It is not driven at all by what I want it to be driven by. And that's one of the key issues I want to get into when we're talking about cyber safety. We need to teach our children how to make sure the internet works for them. Let me give you a case in example. When I go into schools and I talk to children, I start at year 3 and I go up to their 18 years of age. And I ask them, who's watching you? When you get onto the internet, who's watching you? How I see the internet is like a saloon door. When you give them a device, you have now given them an access to 4.6 billion people, right? And so that device and whatever security you put on that device either defends you from those 4.6 billion or allows them in. Now, there are many people who have motivation to speak to your children once they get through that salon door. One of them's me, EdTech. We want to talk to them about technology. We want to offer them services. We want to engage them in an educational capacity, but not everyone is nice as me. So social media, what's the motivation for social media having your children on their platform? And depending on the age of your child, have that conversation when they enter an app. Why do you think this app is engaging with you? And what you'll find most of the time is it's not for the benefit of your child. And I'm going to go into the apps in more details and speak to you about some big apps that are here that we need to be aware of and we need to understand, so you can have that conversation more widely with your children. The other big one is predators. Predators have never had it as good because the playgrounds are now in front of them and they're now exposed without any supervision. So predator apps, so there are apps that you will call illegal, but I will call it a predator app. And I will show you which predatory apps that we really need to be aware of. A big concern here in Asia, and I've seen in schools, is fanaticism. Fanatics are after that gateway as well to have a conversation with your child. And this happens mainly on the gaming platforms, because you can have a conversation in a child's ear, changing their value system, connecting with them on a different level for hours and hours. So they also are looking at it. And then you have motivations like phishing and scamming. The phishing and scamming we've seen this year with the pandemic has got younger and younger. And again, this is something we'll go into, but if your child's ever come to you and said, oh, look, I can get a free hack on Roblox or a free hack on Fortnite and I can go up a level, that is a hacking or a phishing scam, and our children need to acknowledge it's happening to them. So a lot of it is, one, can we recognize the issue ourselves when it pops up? And then can we educate our children about the issue? When children get online and I have that conversation, who's watching you? The 17-year-olds will be telling me, yeah, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, they are watching me. The younger ones say the cyber police. And what we need to get them to understand is the geography of the internet is not like the infrastructure we have outside. There are no police, there are no school guardians, there are no parents on there. The only security built into the internet is what we are providing. And depending on what type of parent you are and what type of child your parent, they let you be, like children are very clever with technology, there are different tools that can help you monitor them. We've done a lot of work with children in the industry, and most children, even teenagers, say that we don't want mum and dad watching us, but we would like them to be there when we need them. There's nothing more fearful to a child when they have that flip of anxiety in their stomach and they're not too sure why that's happening to them. Just to let you know, if you do have questions, pop them in the chat room and then we will go through them a bit later when I've stopped the flow, but Zoe's keeping an eye on that as well. I want to show you an example of where the internet is working for the motivation of the app and not the motivation of our children. So you can get an idea of how AI is actually affecting our kids and what we can do about it. Now, I'm going to give you an example of YouTube, I'm sure, and Peppa Pig. I'm sure there's enough Brits in the room as myself who know who Peppa Pig is. And now when my kids were younger, my girls are now 9, 10, and I have a 4-year-old boy. And 9 and 10, I had no concept of YouTube being an issue for my children. So when they were driving me nuts, I wanted to go and have a coffee or do some work, I would happily put them in front of YouTube and Peppa Pig. What was my motivation for doing that? I'm a Brit mum. I trust the BBC. I think it's trusted content. I think it's going to give my kids value while they're sitting there. Now, think about an average child. An average child clicks YouTube clicks 11 times. So if you have a separate screen, go over to YouTube now, go in and type Peppa Pig, and then click sporadically like a 5-year-old. And I'm sure many of you can just do this in your head because we've seen it done so many times, and see where they end up. And I guarantee, without a doubt, you're going to end up with something like this. This dude, this gentleman. Why am I worried about him? I mean, he's even flipped over to Netflix. So, but if you look at what you're looking at now, or I will tell you something like this video, we've had 63 million views. The length of the video has now gone from a 30-minute, 20-minute Peppa Pig video and has now expanded significantly to an hour and a half video. So what am I worried about? I'm away from my trusted provider. I don't know what's actually the content in here. The ads at the bottom are running longer, and unless you're a cyber secure mum, you are using the same account for your kids, like I often do, as your kids, as you. So the ads at the bottom are not meant for your kids. The ads at the bottom are meant for you. And 94% of worrying content comes from adverts. Okay, so now we are in what we call wish fulfillment. We're in a whole sector of YouTube, which is incredibly confusing, where kids are unwrapping eggs, unwrapping toys, and then are just wishing for what's on the screen, even though they're not doing it. So this is some of the issues we have with Twitch and a few other products. The app providers are trying to get your children to meet a fulfillment rather than getting anything educational or engaging. So you have now walked away from the trusted content as a parent you provided. And this is why I often say, get your kids into Disney Plus or Netflix, because they have that regulation in play that TVs had to have back in the day. YouTube doesn't need to regulate because you have hit the terms and conditions that say that your child is not 13 years of age. A child under 13 should not be using YouTube by their terms and conditions. Of course, that's not true. I put my kids through educational content on YouTube. I make sure I monitor and I control it. Now, what can you do about this? YouTube have two things you can do about it. They have YouTube for kids, which if you have children, you know, they grow out of very, very fast. And they also have a new beta version that's coming up that was launched last week, where you can set the settings to YouTube Explore More, and just YouTube or something like that. I'll tell you in a minute. I'll just pop that up. And it means you can, with the age of independence of your kids, they can be rewarded more access to YouTube as you go. One of the other issues I have with YouTube is that some of the content is just maliciously hacked. So when you're watching Peppa Pig, people find it really fun to see if they can get through the AI with imagery that's disturbing, but won't be catched by the AI. The amount of videos being uploaded to YouTube is so significant, is not watched by the human eye. And also Silicon Valley won't pay people or employ enough people to get it watched by the human eye, which is another problem. So remember, none of that is being watched by anybody. So the first views could be your children. We had incidences where people were watching Peppa Pig and seeing a beheading in the middle of it, or seeing porn in the middle of it. So there's no way of really gauging what's there. There are also challenges and scandals which we'll go into. The ElsaGate scandal, again, was something where a group of teens were trying to get content that could just flip through the AI system. And just to go back to the beta version, the three options you have for YouTube with your kids is Explore, Explore More, or most of YouTube. Unfortunately, when I say it's a beta version, it normally gets to Singapore last, but they have said that it's launching in 80 countries. So do keep an eye on that. And with your children, and what I do with my own kids is get them to work to some type of level, see that they're okay with it, and then up them to the next level. The whole idea is your children have the skills to be independent in technology. You should not be watching them forever. You won't be able to watch them forever. If you try, they'll buy a new phone. They'll work out the new apps that they can download to mask stuff from you. So it's a case of getting them young, getting them to understand how the internet works. So that's my take on YouTube. I'm not against it, but we need to be having a conversation and understanding what's out there. The next app, which I'm going to go into, is TikTok. TikTok has 500 million viewers worldwide. I enjoy TikTok. I find, I've also done the feta cheese recipe that I think the whole world has done right now. It got through people through the pandemic. Last week, I was talking to a big webinar in the US, and a lot of them agreed that it got their teens engaged, up and dancing. There's a lot of positive content where kids will see children like them or people like them to aspire to. Back when I was reading More magazine, it was always the polished girls who were very skinny and looked nothing like me that I had to aspire to. Now there's more aspiration at children's level, and that's great. However, just because it's a fun space does not make it a safe space. Okay, 489 million videos were deleted in the last quarter. That means they've been uploaded and then deleted. The problem I have with TikTok and what we need to talk to our children about is the challenges on there. There are lots of challenges, lots of positive challenges, but 82 kids have died from the challenges on TikTok. So they really are concerning. The ones that worry me is the skull breaker challenge. If you've heard of that one, a friend was, well, I say friend, but somebody will stand on this side of you, another person will stand on this side of you and ask you to jump. When you jump, they knock your legs out from underneath you. That has caused deaths. You can also research the blackout challenge. One in the last 2 weeks that has become a real issue is a silhouette challenge, where a filter is a simple filter and you can dance so you look like a shadow. So people have been doing skimpy dances, wearing less clothes, feeling safe they're behind a filter. Like any filter, a photographer can remove the filter. So you can take a quick jump to YouTube and see all those pictures uploaded without the filter on them. So that is a major, major concern. And I think children need to understand, teens and we all need to understand, is that once the content is uploaded onto the internet, it can be altered by anybody who can see it. So they have to be really careful about what you upload. One of the other key concerns about TikTok is hashtags. Let me give you a case and example. But when I could travel, I was talking to my business partner and I was saying to her, let's go to Bali, let's go and have a look at how cyber safety is there, just trying to get a holiday out of it. But as soon as I'd done that, my Instagram popped up with holidays to Bali. Facebook was holidays to Bali. Now let's flip to the screen of a 16-year-old girl who's worried or concerned about her weight. So she starts to type in healthy eating. She starts to look at her diet. Now her echo chamber has become all about dieting, all about looking good. Think about the imagery she's seeing. It takes, I'd say, a few days, a few clicks before you start seeing pro-ana sites, which is pro-anorexia sites. And we've seen children go down that echo chamber, down that rabbit hole to say, thinking this is normal. Now, TikTok, Instagram, all of them try and keep on top of these hashtags. When they come up, they try and delete them. But we'll go into the language of the internet and how it's different to teenagers in a minute. But those hashtags will change and the kids are up with a change. So the AI is driving our kids to stuff that we probably don't want them to see. And you can play that case out in a few scenarios. It's worth doing with your older children and showing how those hashtags are manipulating them. One of the wider conversations we have, and even in the book, is what would a life look like without hashtag and trends? And I always say that's my teenage life. I never knew what was on trend. I was always off trend. But trends are man-made. Get your children to understand why the trend is there. Is it there for the fact that the world is talking about it, like climate change, or is it because the media are forcing it upon you, like the Free Britney movement? So, get people to understand why they're looking at what they're looking at. Another app that I'm going to communicate with you as well is Discord. Discord, again, positive app. What it does, it works with gamers who are on Minecraft, Roblox. It has 100 million users, and people can talk to each other while they're playing the game. It's all very good until you let anybody speak to your children. And in the community, we call it the playground for bullies. It has a lot of explicit content, a lot of racism. The language turns really fast in the ear of your child. You will hear racial slurs and sexual material is often exchanged with each other. Discord does have robust parent controls. Any app your children are on where they are not playing just by themselves or in their interlace of the people they know on offline, you must go into their parent controls. It's like the most important thing to do. So work out which apps your kids use the most and go and pop over to those. We do offer a sheet on all of these about how to turn on your parent controls. So you can get me on LinkedIn or send me an email and I can help send that to you. This is the other big app that I want to just hit upon. It has 330 million users and it's been around quite a long time. Whenever I go into Snapchat and I endorse all parents going into every app you give your child, I get so confused. The interface, the icons, the emojis, there's so much going on, but this is the language of the kids and they understand it. This is a photo sharing app where the picture deletes in 24 hours, so mainly known as the sexting app. And if you don't have this app, please download it and see what comes up on your screen straight away, and you'll understand why you must turn on your privacy controls. It is very much sexual content or sexual alluding content that pops up without that on there. The biggest issue I have about this though is not that, is that it's designed for habitual behavior. It's designed so your children never want to log off. So there are two features on it, Snap Streak and Snapchat Score. Snap Streak is the old-fashioned email train. I email you saying, do you want to go for a drink? You email me back. I say, I can't wait for Friday night. However, then you're in the age of a teenager. And if you stop emailing back and forth, you lose your streak. So they've gone into that kids' competitive edge. So if you've ever had your kids coming back and saying, they're best friends now, they're not playing with me, that's Snapchat coming into using that. So a case in example is, oh, me and Emily have had a Snap streak for 3 months, we're besties, right? But you and Kelly have only had a Snap streak for 10 days, you're not. And we've had problems where kids have been waking up in the middle of the night, crying and saying, I haven't done my Snap streak, I'm gonna lose my Snap streak. Same with the Snapchat Score. It's an AI algorithm. Nobody knows how it works, but you get rewarded for posting and engaging on the app, which means you're obviously up there posting and engaging. Us adults, we all end up doom scrolling ourselves. We'll be on the internet, scrolling on Instagram, not too sure what we're looking for anymore. At some point, our adult brain will kick in and say, right, you know, enough of this, we've been here too long. But a child's brain will continue to scroll, continue to take in that information. So again, we need to be having a conversation with our kids to understand when they need to stop and pull away when it becomes inner thoughts are going in the wrong way, anxiety is coming in, and worry is becoming the major thought process when they're on that app. It is also the predator's playground. The average age of Snapchat is 13 to 18. The average age a predator is looking for is a 13-year-old girl. The age most apps say you can download them is 13. And that's where the quandary is. Your children at 13 have the right to down Instagram by technology standards, have the right to have Snapchat, and their friends have it as well. So we have that real diaspora of age of what do you do? And it's a really confusing. That's where us parents get confused, really. This app I really want to alert you to. Some of the younger parents here may recognize it themselves. It's been around forever, and if you pop over to a second screen and check out their homepage, they have not updated their interface. Since the 90s, they haven't needed to, and you can just see from their logo why we're so concerned about it. It even says on their homepage, pedophiles or predators are on this app. Like, they could not be more like, it's happening, we're just not going to do anything about it. Now, why has it become successful again? TikTok has a lot of videos with children or kids reacting to what they're seeing on Omegle. So you don't actually see what they're seeing, but you see their reaction. You can log in 3 capacities. You can say, I want unmoderated adult content. You don't have to prove you're an adult to get into that content. And 99% of the time, the stranger you're going to match to is naked or performing a sexual act. It's the most worrying app out there, and it's just a click of a button. It's back again after the pandemic. And if you speak to your older kids, I'm pretty sure they've heard about it. Just because it seems funny when you're doing it with a friend does not mean that image or that worry does not come into your child's head. Your child can be easily groomed off the app to have a conversation. Now, in Singapore, I hear a lot of, well, you can't really groom a child in Singapore. They're not going to run off with a child, an adult in Singapore. There's 2 things where that goes terribly wrong. One, a lot of the pedophiles on the apps don't want your children physically, they want their photos. Their photos have revenue and currency. If they can get their photos, they can sell their photos. So that's one. Two, we have had issues here where 17-year-old girls have been groomed and then been told, your parents don't really love you, you're 17 now, here's the ticket, why don't you fly and come and see me? That grooming could have gone on for 2 to 3 years. So they really believe they're going to see someone they've known for a long time. Also, the age of consent here, we've seen people being come into sugar daddy sites here. Once you're 17, it's not illegal to be going off and doing that. Prostitution is not illegal here either. So you could be groomed for 4 or 5 years to get to this issue. So grooming is a conversation that still needs to be had in Singapore. And moving on to the gamers out there, gaming platforms, we do see statistically boys being more groomed on them. I'll give you an example of why we worry about these apps, because they are great apps in terms of Roblox and Minecraft. They use the brain. They are modern day sandboxes where you can go in and create and play. However, like a playground, it depends who you invite into your sandbox. I had a girl last week, a 9-year-old. She'd created this great world in Roblox, including a bathroom, and she'd done this great makeup routine. A little avatar followed her into the bathroom, started to ask her to undress, started to say, do you want to play together? Because there are certain words you can't use on Roblox, he didn't explicitly ask her for sex, but she got so worried, she just deleted her whole world. And if anybody's kids play Roblox, you understand deleting your world is a significant thing. There are predators on Roblox. If you don't have your settings set, they are after, again, the same things to get your kids off the app into another app and having a conversation where they can exchange photos. So that's the same with Fortnite, Minecraft, Among Us. Please go in, turn and disable the chats. When your children are old enough to have the chat on them, get them to understand. And this is one of the things I'm very proud about the book. We talk about grooming. We give people the keywords to understand when they're being groomed. What are the warning words? What are the warnings that you need to have? And we do that in a way that you can have that conversation with any age group. Now I've scared everyone half to death. Let me give you some tools that can help you. With any technology, there is a tool, there is somewhere you can help or support your children. One of them is Bark. Bark does exactly what it says it does. You download it, and whenever there's an issue on the platform, it can go into Snapchat, Instagram. I think it pretty much goes into all of them. It will bark at you. Its AI is sensitive enough that it can see an acronym like KMS. KMS is I'm going to kill myself, and it will alert you. The language you know and the language of the internet is very different. Bark stays up to date with that. You can screen time filter, text message filter, and it will tell you everything. Now, no teenager is going to let you download this app. So another one I will give you is SaferNet. And I haven't got that link here, but it's something that's developed by a charity in the UK. And they will send you a graph. So for your older kids, it will send you a graph with a green line and a red line. And it will say, if the red line is at 20%, they detected bad behavior of 20%. And you will get alerted to that to have a conversation with your child. The great thing about this is that it does alert the child when it's happening. So it will say, hang on, this is bad behavior. What are you doing? Don't do that. So it's coaching the child rather than telling the parent. So that's a really good one for older children. I'm going to move forward to the next one is Custodio. Custodio is free, and as a cyber safety person, I would tell you never download anything for free, but this one is very good, and it will look after the digital well-being of your child. Go in and have a look at that. It will block dangerous sites, and it will protect your children from online bullying by notifying and updating you of worrying content. This one is the one I use. It's very good here if you have an Android phone or your kids do. I think it now does work on iPhone, but I'm not going to I'm not too sure. So for my kids, I can lock their phones when I need to lock them. Here, because one of my children will run across the road, I lock it when I know that they're outside and are going across the main road. They cannot download any apps without my consent. So they have to, it will send me approval and say, will you approve this app? So it's really good control. My advice is, if your children have phones young, and here in Singapore, the average age is 9 to 10 years of age, because we allow our children to go out and take the MRT by themselves. So that's for our comfort. Go onto their WhatsApp groups now. Start counseling them now while they let you do it. Once they get older, they're not going to let you in. So if you can start coaching them young, it actually makes a big difference. So sometimes doing a tech block on your children doesn't help them ready for the future. If they are using a device, you need to start giving them the wisdom to use the device. And so you can handhold them through it young. So the idea of not giving them a phone young really doesn't work anymore, in terms of, my kids will have a phone for an hour while they commute, but as soon as the phone comes home, it's locked up. So that phone is for me. It's for me to know where they are. Start using the phone for your capacity, and then slowly let it be for their capacity. Okay, so these are the ones that I'm going to ask you to go away and set up all your parent controls on. If you need support or help, please do reach out to me. LinkedIn is the best place for me, or just straight to our website. I can help you do these. To give a bit of a pause and to see how how internet savvy you all are, here's a fun poll. There are a few emojis here which don't mean what they mean to you and me to kids. They mean something completely different, and have a lot of sexual connotations. Let me give you 30 seconds. Take a look at these emojis and see if you know what they really mean. Count how many you know. Okay, I'm going to reveal the answers. Did you know these? So the language of the internet travels globally. Most of these are pushed by shows like Netflix or YouTube content, bloggers. So they tend to mean the same thing across the globe. It's more of a, how your children perceive the internet and how we use the internet are two totally different things. And it's important that we're aware of that. I'm just going to touch upon a few topics that are really important. And these are the images from the book. And as you can see, this image, when I talk to a year 3, I'll ask them to talk about the image. And I say, what do you think's going on here? While with the older kids, there is a lot of heavier text and encyclopedic knowledge, so they understand it more. So you can do it in many different levels, and there's activities for each thing as well. Now, when I talk about cyberbullying, I do not talk about, what do you do if you're being cyberbullied? Go report it, because I think that's not the problem. I want to talk about, do you recognize when you are a cyberbully? Cyberbullying doesn't happen in a silo. Our children are also the cyberbully. If you think of a child's brain, the frontal lobe is not developed till you're 25 years of age. That means when they're online, they're impatient, they go off and they say what they think really fast. And so your child has sent something that could be cyberbullying or will do. They need to recognize that you can't just say that. We've done it ourselves. If you've ever complained about a teacher on a WhatsApp channel, or you've started another family group because your uncle's annoying you, that is what we call cyberbullying. You're excluding someone, you're talking about somebody behind their back. So we need to recognize this behavior. One of the tools that I really recommend was created by a girl who got really annoyed by the fact that nobody ever addressed the bully. And the app acts as an adult again. When your child is sending a WhatsApp message, it will send a little alert. Will this message cause emotional harm? And they found that 96% of messages that were mean got changed and rephrased. And again, we've all done it when we're typing on WhatsApp, and then we delete, and we rephrase it to cause less harm or a less emotion. We need to teach our children to do that, to bring that cyberbullying figure down. Singapore has the highest cyberbullying figure in the world, which is insane for the population. So we really need to get children to understand how you phrase and what you're doing. When you're sharing a photo of a friend, have you got permission? Get your children to start asking you for permission before you post on Instagram and Facebook. If you have teenagers, they're already making you ask permission, but start even younger. Say, is it okay if I share this image? Are you okay with it? And they will start to understand that the digital world belongs to them. Their digital footprint is theirs to own. And that's really important. The other thing we go into is phishing, and this slobbyish fish shows you who you think you're talking to has ulterior motives sometimes. And for the older kids, we're talking about ghosting and catfishing. People aren't saying who they are. For the younger kids, my own daughter wanted to go on Among Us. I'm not a big fan of Among Us, but I said, let's do it together. Within the first 5 minutes, somebody on the chat had the name hacker, said, would you like this free code? Now, being my daughter, she was terrified. I taught her far too well. And she was like, let's just delete the app. But clicking on that app could bring a worm or could bring in a virus into your system and destroy their device. So it's really important they know that. Or I have had an incident where a 13-year-old boy was talking to somebody on Fortnite. He was a sophisticated hacker. He was trying to get all the personal information out of him, and he hacked his father's company. So he managed to get all the keywords, all the passwords from the 13-year-old child in Fortnite, and this whole company got hacked. So they will go to these degrees, and you can imagine the guilt that poor boy felt. So really make them aware, why are people contacting you online? It's an important conversation. The other big point we go into as well with this great character is fake news. Do your kids know the difference between disinformation and misinformation? And are they forwarding it? Are they saying it? I know they are, because I get a fake news report every day about today was Harry Styles is a racist. They said it in the playground. And I was like, I don't know, bless him, who he is, but I'm pretty sure that's fake news. Or Donald Trump's going to do something to something, because they've caught a bit of it, but they really haven't got the whole grasp. So one of the activities I love to do with kids, mainly the older kids, is to get 2 newspapers with opposing views. Get the same story and read it and say, why do you think they've reported these facts? And why do you think they've reported these facts? And see, and I guarantee you, there will be fake news somewhere in those, even in positive publications. And then you can go and research and see how other people have reported on it. So you can show them, even when it comes to racism or language, how has this newspaper reported on a Black man, and how is this newspaper reported on a Black man? There's a lot you can do by showing it in different contexts, and really show your children things are written with motivation behind them. We need to teach our kids to find that motivation and see if it's positive for them or negative for them, depending again on the age of your child and the depth you want to go into. As I was saying before, we are the only book to go into grooming. It's a sensitive conversation to have, and with the year 3s, I just show them this picture, and it's amazing how many of them cannot grasp that this boy is not talking to that boy who's on the screen, because they just believe honesty prevails on the internet. And so we then go into it and show, hang on a minute, that Jimmy on the screen may not be Jimmy, it might be this guy here. And that's why if you feel worried or you hear these words, you need to come back and talk to your parents about it. Another character, and something I will also make sure that I say to all the parents is, make sure you have 2FA on all your sites. Like, without a date, you have been hacked or breached. If you have an iPhone, you can go into your apps on general settings, and iPhone now tells you which of those apps have been hacked. It's not because you've been hacked, it's the app you have been on has been hacked and your password has leaked. Now 2FA, if you don't know what it is, it's the same process as if you're going to take money out of the bank. You go to the bank, you put a credit card in, and then you put your PIN in. So you've had to authenticate yourself twice. So if you want to get into your Gmail, you write in your password, and then on your phone, they will send you a code. You want that two-factor authentication, because if Google has leaked your password, they can't leak the code that comes out to you. So you're still safe. Every single reputable account has 2FA. So if it matters to you, and if someone got into it, like your Gmail accounts or your Instagram account, please have 2FA put on it straight away. If your internet is isolated and your kids are sitting around not connected to the internet, you do not need these two things, antivirus and patches. And actually we do talk about these in the book as well, because kids need to understand antivirus. If you work from home and you don't have an antivirus on your phone, and your work emails come onto your phone, you are vulnerable, because that is still a device. Go now and download McAfee antivirus. Again, it's free, but a reputable company. It will also, is the good thing I love about the McAfee app, is when I go into Paya Lebar or I go into Changi Airport, if the internet connection is not safe, it just logs me straight off. Hackers love to sit in Starbucks. They like to be able to sit there for 4 hours with the students. So yeah, be careful. Don't just log on without an antivirus on. Patches. This is when you and me and the rest of the world gets really annoyed when the installation happens in the side of our computer and says, would you like to update your computer? And we say, not now, in 10 weeks time. The reason that update has come is because there's a virus out there and it could attack your computer. Nobody updates unless they need to or have to. So please get your children to get into the habit of updating. It's hygiene at its basic level. When they're doing their dissertation and their whole computer goes down because they didn't do an update, it's going to be painful. So please always don't click, and I have to tell myself this all the time, don't click 30 minutes later. If you have the time, just update your computer straight away. So thank you very much. I hope I gave you a lot of context there, a lot of knowledge. I think we do have questions. So I will pass back to Zoe because I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, we do have a few questions. Thank you very much for that. The first question was, can you just say the name again of the second app you mentioned? You were talking about Bark. I think it was called SaferNet. That's what I wrote.
SaferNet, yes. SaferNet is a charity in the UK. And they do so what that actually is a keyboard. And when I was talking to them, I thought they meant a physical keyboard. And I was like, how does that work? It took me a while to realize it's a keyboard you download onto your phone. So they're typing with that keyboard, which is an AI system, which is keeping them safe. So that's a good one for the older kids. I wouldn't recommend it so much for the younger kids because it actually tutors them in real time.
Thank you very much. Somebody's asked just what the TikTok challenges are that you mentioned. I think more a question around how do the challenges, present themselves on the screen.
Okay, so the challenges are like hashtags, and they are promoted by TikTok. They can be really positive ones like Learn This Dance or the feta cheese pasta that's come out that everybody's making from Norway, but then there's these really negative ones as well. So there's a skull breaker challenge, the silhouette challenge, the blackout challenge. There's the one where you have to wrap your hand around your waist and it shows how skinny you are. If you just type in TikTok challenges, there will be many news articles on the TikTok challenges.
Great, thank you very much. Somebody's asked how you install 2FA. Or how do you check?
So go into your settings on the side of your app. If it's a good app, you can even probably write it in the search bar, and there'll be a bar saying 2FA. Sorry, I'm just going to close my window. Started mosquito spraying here. Yeah, so yeah, it should be quite easy to navigate. Most apps also will have a YouTube tutorial on it. Otherwise, just reach out and I can help you with that.
Okay, great. There's a few comments here rather than questions as such. I think Andy's commented to say he uses Bark. He says it's not available outside of the US, but there are workarounds. He says it's very good at social media monitoring. He also uses Custodio. So thank you for that comment, Andy. And then just a lot of people asking about how they can access this presentation afterwards. We have recorded it, so we will put it on the parent portal. I think, Nina, you've mentioned about people contacting you through your website or through LinkedIn as well.
Yes, yeah, you can do that. And also I do have a version, a longer version of this webinar that will be uploaded to my site that I did last week. So you can access that on the cyberlightbooks.com. We also do a newsletter every week with the up-to-date challenges, the up-to-date issues that you need to know. We also launch a little one-page synopsis on any apps that are coming up and what you need to be worried about. But I do also recommend massively and highly, and I think the school probably uses it, is Common Sense Media. Common Sense Media is an amazing app. So whenever my kids say, I want this app, we pop over to Common Sense Media and we see what the kids say and the parents say, always different. But you can then make an assessment of whether they can have the app or not. My key advice is play the apps with your kids. Like if you're going to play anything anywhere or suss out any playground anywhere, you have to be engaged and play with them at some level to see where the worries are. And it will take you a good 10 minutes before you think, okay, this is right for my child, or no, this is not right.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Nina. I think that's most of the questions answered. So yeah, I think that draws this webinar to a conclusion. I'd like to thank you, Nina. Every time I listen to your webinars, I start to think, right, I must do that as soon as I get home. So thank you very much. It's been hugely useful. There's lots of comments on the chat as well to say thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone's time. And if I can be of any help in any other way, I'm here anytime. And do go over and take a look at the book.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Have a lovely day, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.